chief Washington correspondent. That's Major Garrett joins us now. Major, let's pick up where Ben just left, where he said for the first time, if he stays on script, and sometimes the president does not do that, that he's going to mention President-elect Joe Biden by name. He has shattered so many norms, so many things that we take, that we value, that we honor. What does it mean that he has not honored the tradition of the handoff to your successor?
What is the common thread in what you just described, Gayle? The self-generated drama of Donald Trump. We're all hanging around to see if he will do something we know he should have done weeks and months ago, and every one of his outgoing presidential predecessors did, without any worry or concern at all. Yeah. He has built up and created a false drama about whether he's going to say the thing that is so obvious, that is so clear-cut, and is so deeply a part of our ingrained traditions of a transition of power. It is an act of extravagant selfishness. You can't describe it as anything other than that. Yes, he's entitled to it. He retains the powers of the presidency. But this is a moment, and politics is an enterprise where you have to do things you don't want to sometimes.
Major,
in human life, we respect people who we know, gosh, if I was there, it'd be really hard for me to do that. But grace matters.
Yeah.
Tact matters.
It does matter.
And history records it as such.
Yeah. So this is a day of the president's own creation, the drama built up around it. I think the question that comes to mind is this a character flaw, as some Republicans have come to term it, or is it something strategic that the president wants for attention's sake?
It is a character reality. Let me go back to a Greek philosopher you might have heard of, Heraclitus. A man's character is his fate. The smallness of this moment, and I talked to so many Trump supporters, people who really worked inside the White House, really close to this campaign last night. They were unbelievably sad about this moment, how small it is. Yeah. How it could have been about a transition of power and a recognition of accomplishments. All that is so diminished because of the president's own actions. He has diminished the exit of his presidency. He could be large and gracious and talk about the things he has done, which are not insignificant. Yeah. But all of that is lost because of this false, hyper-generated drama about nothing.
Major, he's leaving the White House here in a moment, but he is still going to be president in Washington, the subject of an impeachment trial.
Yes.
Mitch McConnell on the floor of the Senate yesterday blamed him again directly for the assault on the Capitol. What did you make of those remarks?
That was an extraordinary moment,
really
I thought,
extraordinary.
to hear Mitch McConnell.
So there are a lot of people in town who consider Mitch McConnell kind of a cynical inside player, very mechanistic, but there are moments when he protects the institution of which he serves and loves. He is an institutionalist. Whether you regard him as a positive or negative one, I'll leave that to the partisans to fight out. But what I heard in those remarks were, Mr. President, you launched an attack on my home, the legislative branch of our government, the first branch of our government outlined in the Constitution. I will not forget it, and it is a very good chance I won't forgive it. And the instrument of my not forgiving you is laying before this body in the next couple of days. It's called impeachment.
Isn't he sending others a message, too, that, you know what, maybe we should vote?
Well, he is certainly giving them ample room to have an open mind about the underlying evidence, and he's already said, yes, the president incited mobs. The mob was fed lies by the president.
I was so struck by the fact he did this on the president's last full day in office.
Yes.
He could have said nothing.
He could have said nothing, and I think for the Senate Majority Leader, the relationship with the president has always been strained, but the Majority Leader has always said, look, I've given you lots of room. Lots of latitude to do your presidency in your particularly combative way.
What does it say?
I've lived with that, but I can't live with this. I can't abide this, and I won't let it go.
Mitch McConnell's very carefully chosen words on his last day as majority leader do raise the question, and we'll put this to Reince Priebus later, the president's former chief of staff, of whether there is a permanent fracture underway in the Republican Party. We heard someone yesterday in a piece from Manny Bajorquez refer to themselves as a Trumplican.
Sure.
Is that the future?
It might be. In the remarks the president's about to give, he will talk about the movement and that it's in its earliest days and it's going to continue and grow. Around what? Is it going to grow around the toxic lies of the last days of his presidency, which can only be described as an assault not only on democracy, the Capitol, but on facts and truth? And this reluctance to embrace the idea that there's a transition of power and someone new has been elected president? Is that what your new party is about? Is that your definition of patriotism? If you're going to call it the Patriot Party, that's going to be a tough sell. That is not an enduring American political message. If it gets closer to aggressiveness on immigration, trade, and things like that, maybe it can last. But Republicans are going to have to make a decision about what they stand for. Conspiracy theories, lies, and anti-constitutionalist behavior, or something that's much more common in the Republican Party, for, I don't know, about 160 years.
I thought it was interesting, too, when Mitch McConnell said not only lies by the president, but lies by people
Other powerful people.
in power. I thought he was sending messages there as well.
Yes, you can read between the lines, Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley.
Josh Hawley.
So this moment, as we await the president's departure from the White House, and we're on the day when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will be inaugurated, it really underscores the degree to which this is a break in what is normal in Washington. On a typical inauguration day, we wouldn't have multiple cameras and far-flung correspondents. We would have a single shot of the incoming and outgoing president exchanging gifts and pleasantries on the White House steps.
Right, and it doesn't mean that we have to assume that everything is pleasant and everyone loves each other. That's not the point. The point is, in America, we have a lot of campaigning, and we say lots of tough things about one another. But when the voters have made their verdict clear, we don't come apart, we come together, even if it's ever so briefly, and even if it's just for ceremony. We do it to show the world and to show ourselves that these underlying traditions not only matter in a historic sense, but they matter in a future sense. Repeating them inculcates us in very good behavior that's central not to our political futures, not to our political parties, but to the country itself.
Valerie Jarrett made that point yesterday when she joined us at CBS This Morning. She said it was a difficult time for the Obamas to greet the Trumps at the White House that day, because Michelle Obama has written about this in her book. She believes that President Trump's rhetoric has actually put her family in danger. But yet, she said they chose grace at that particular time.
Right, and if you go back and look at President Trump's inaugural address, the very beginning of it, he turns and says, I want to say how magnificent President Obama and First Lady Michelle have been to us. The transition has been excellent. You have been magnificent. Big round of applause.
But then in that speech, we heard the phrase, American carnage.
Right. But still, the point of that, what I just said, is that they acknowledged one another, as difficult as it was, and this seamless garment of American democracy was visible. It is rent this morning. It will be torn, and the president is tearing it because he's not going to be there.
And what that sets up, I mean, to the point you're making now, Major, this is Joe Biden's day. The focus should be on Joe Biden, and we're spending time talking about the fact that Donald Trump won't go to the inauguration.
Well, you know what? We can turn.
But maybe we should not do that.
We can turn the hourglass over right now.
Yes,
From where I began, this artificial drama, which keeps the president at the center of it. That's the common thread.